Hello, hello. Welcome to the third episode of Puzzle Pieces. It's your favorite care conqueror and empowerment coach, Candace, reporting live from where? Empowered to Care. How y'all doing today? I am just sitting here working on this puzzle and enjoying my evening. I've had a really busy start of my week, and so I am just about to unwind for a little bit and get into this puzzle. So I know you guys probably saw the title of this episode is The Time That I Kidnapped My Mom. This is going to take you on a wild ride. Now, I have already shared with y'all that a lot of these details are going to be in the book Moving Mountains for Mimi. But I'm going to give you guys some details today that you're going to be like, what? Before we get into it, I want to share that I recently went to a presentation that was hosted by a local law firm called Silvis Law. They are local in Dallas. And so Silvis Law specializes in family law, all sorts of different types of things with regards to family law. But they host at different periods of time. I don't know if they do it like every month or what the frequency is, but they host these talk about it type of events. And so it's like they offer you, basically they're offering you dinner, which is like we had some really good tacos and margaritas, and it's in like a classroom style setting at a local chamber of commerce. And so I went to that because, for one, as I continue to build my own legacy now, I wanted to kind of understand the best ways to protect myself, my assets, my legacy with my children, and just make it easier for them. I've shared with you guys before that, my father passed away in 2021. And so he had some things in place, but it was still a bit of a effort to get everything. I can't get into all that right now, but, it's just really good for you to have everything, all your ducks in a row in whatever way that looks like for you. So Silvis Law specializes in like wills and trusts, also like uncommon scenarios in family law, things that can cause roadblocks when it comes to like caring or advocating for your loved one. So they do things like incapacity plans, estate plans, asset protection, child protection plans, you name it, they do it. So, they didn't ask me to do that, but I am basically giving them free advertisement, because the way that they put this information together and the way that they made it sound so like real world scenario, it wasn't a whole bunch of legalese. They were giving, different circumstances that made sense. And it's like, oh, okay. So it made you feel like I can understand this information. Because I think sometimes when we're dealing with legal paperwork or, law firms, period, or just anything legal wise, sometimes some of the jargon can be a little bit confusing. And then too, you don't know if you're just being taken for your money and just different things of that nature. So I really appreciated their approach to showing us some of the steps that we should take, or how they can help us take those steps to better protect ourselves and our loved ones and our assets. And just like I said, other various things. So let's get into the time that I had to kidnap my mom, y'all. So as I've shared before, when we were doing the fundraising efforts and things of that nature, it was because my mom was, she was a resident of Texas, but she became incapacitated in California. So that posed several problems for us with regards to just pretty much everything, right? So, somebody like having Silvis Law back then would have been wildly useful for me had I known fully. But again, the other issue is that I didn't have a whole lot of support financially in order to get some of this stuff done. So, you kind of like pull your resources together where you can, right? So anywho, as we had continued to raise money for Mimi to return to Texas, I had received a call from the facility that she was in California. And so it was from their administrator. And so they said, we need to set up a call. We need to talk about her long-term care plan because there have been some developments. So I'm like, okay. So we get a call set up. It's like a conference call. And so they go on to share with me that because mom had been there for over a year, she was now considered a an incapacitated resident of California. So at this point, what they are able to do is file for conservatorship over her estate, or she didn't really have a estate, but that's what they call it. So, they were going to become her conservator, meaning they would become the payee on any like financial means that she received. They were able to make financial and care decisions for her. So the place that she had been in was actually kind of a really nice facility. It was in a nice area of town, but it was very expensive for her to live there. And so, backing up a little bit, I had shared that, they thought mom was going to die several times. So the fact that she lived was already not expected in the first place. So we really just didn't have any of this stuff kind of nailed down on what we were supposed to be doing with her. Because, I had already gotten the clearance that they said, yeah, I think that, if she continues to recover, you guys could probably, get her back home at some point. But of course, again, like I said, we had been taking all that time to get the money raised. The administrator shared that they had the hearing scheduled to become her conservator. Now, at this time, I didn't have a whole lot of legal rights to mom. I think I had maybe a document or two saying that it was okay for me to, I think we somehow found a way to get around some things. And, we had signed a HIPAA form or, a few forms here and there. They allowed me to advocate on her behalf. But at that time, we hadn't gone through any like real legal ways of doing this. So I kind of had done what I can, right? When this happens, I actually had been trying to find her a care home because one of my neighbors had told me about care homes, and I didn't know anything about care homes, but I really wasn't wanting to put her in a facility necessarily or like a nursing home. So the care home option, it did seem like a better fit for what we were trying to do. But at the time, I couldn't find one that was like within our price range and that would be affordable for the kind of care that she needed, because she was what they consider total care. And so, and there were some other things that we would have had to furnish and do and all these other things. I'm like, okay, so they tell me that basically the hearing that they're going to have is going to be in 2 weeks from that time. Well, we weren't really necessarily prepared for a 2-week turnaround time. We were thinking more like in the next couple of months, we were going to try to get her home. Because in the meantime, I'm still fundraising and I'm also still traveling back and forth, to California to see about her, every, couple of times a month and that sort of thing. So, I'm like, I can't let them have my mom. Like, I can't let them take her. So I knew we had like a very short window to rally the troops together. So here's everybody that's involved in the heist. You have my brother who's in San Diego. You have me who's in Dallas. My dad is also involved on some level here in Dallas as a support. And I've also got a couple of friends, Nicole and Mr. Linda and some other people. Like, they're all like a part of the Dallas part of the heist. So we've got my brother in San Diego, and then we've got my aunt in Northern California who, has been there with my mom. So we're like, what are we going to do here? So my aunt, shout out to her. She's the one that did intel for the heist at the facility. Because our goal was to have somebody come and be like a caregiver, or, well, not necessarily be a caregiver, but be help transport. We wanted somebody that was like a caregiver to help transport her and help us get her on the plane and then get back to Dallas with us and get mom settled. And then we would, have that person fly back, right? So that was kind of the plan as far as that is concerned. You guys, if you could have seen us the way we were putting this plan together, it literally was like the blueprint of a heist. No joke. So because we have such a limited amount of time, she's doing intel. She finds out that there's a worker at the facility who has a family member that does private duty care. And so we got on a call with that person. We're like, hey, we don't have a lot of time. This is what we want to do. Can you do it? They're like, we got you. So that part was in place, right? So we got all the players in place. Now, my uncle, who is my aunt's husband, he was the getaway driver. Okay. So we've got my aunt and her husband who are the getaway driver. My aunt is going to also fly back to Dallas with us. So we're getting all these plane tickets purchased. We're getting everything together so that we can get mom home. In the interim of that, I've been talking with people about, now I did have like a durable power of attorney for her on file, but it really wasn't going to hold up very well in court because I didn't really have anything to offer them that would stop them from becoming her legal conservator, or she would have become a ward of the state. I did do that, but I had gotten some counsel that I said, well, what are our options here? And this is one of the reasons that a place like Silva's Law is so important, is because you need to know your rights. So I found out that legally they can't keep me from taking her, although there is a conservatorship hearing in the pipeline. So I was told exactly what to say, and I was also told it would be a good idea for me to have some sort of maybe a non-emergency police officer to be present when we get mom discharged from the facility. So this was all supposed to happen on a Saturday, okay? That's the day of the heist. So the week of the heist, that Thursday, I get a call from my aunt and she goes, "We got a problem." So I'm like, "What's going on?" Now, during this time, for about 6 months, my grandmother had been in the hospital. She had had a massive heart attack about 6-7 months before that. And my grandmother was a spitfire type of person, always a, bounce back type of lady. I knew I'd been talking with my grandfather and other people about her condition, but because everything that had been going on with my mom, I really hadn't been super plugged in. I was just kind of calling and checking on her every few days or every week, but I really wasn't completely tuned in. So I'm thinking she's gonna, bounce back at least to some level of normalcy at some point. So she calls me, my aunt calls me, she says, "Your grandmother is not doing well and they need me to come to San Diego," because she was her executor of her estate. She was the one that would help with my grandfather and my grandmother's affairs and things of that nature. So they said, "Yeah, you better get down here. Things are not looking good," or she just wasn't doing well. I guess at that point, because my adrenaline and anxiety was so high, because I'm over here trying to kidnap my mom, I'm thinking, okay. So I said, "Well, what's going to happen?" She's like, "Well, I got to go to San Diego." So now I'm down a pill. To me, she was the anchor in the whole situation. So she's like, "No, you've got this." Because I was like, "Well, we got to do this. We don't have any time left." And she's like, "You got this. You can do this." She's totally encouraging me that I can do this. I am scared to death because I'm still in Texas at this point. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, do we just go ahead and just pull the plug on this and say, forget it? Or do we still try to get my mom home? So it took everything in me to really continue this plan, right? So here's the plan. The plan is that on Saturday morning, I fly in first thing in the morning. My uncle's supposed to pick me up. And then I'm supposed to call the facility and say, "Have my mom ready because I'm coming for a visit. I want you to have her dressed and have her in her chair when we get there." Now, my aunt's friend, who she had an extra wheelchair, because we knew we weren't going to be able to take the facility's wheelchair because we were discharging her. So then we had an extra wheelchair, but my uncle, so my uncle is scared to death. It's not funny, but it is funny now. My uncle is scared to death because he's the getaway driver. So we were driving in the car to the facility that afternoon to go get mom. And I'm I'm in soldier mode. And my uncle is he's over there. He's like, I don't feel good about any of this. He's like, "I'm so scared." I was like, "Unc, calm down. I need you to calm down. Because listen, we got the police officer I've already called the non-emergency people. They're going to come over. The police officer is going to come and stand at the door with us when we ask them to have her and bring her out and stuff like that, just in case there's any problems." So now mind you, we're all just freaking out. I'm trying to remain calm. He's trying to remain calm, but he is not feeling any of this. And my aunt's not there too. So that's another reason, because he's just she's not here. The whole plan felt like it fell apart because she couldn't be there. We executed beautifully, but it still was just so scary. Now, also, too, then we've got to wait on the caregiver, the private duty caregiver that's going to accompany my mom and help put her in the car and transport her. So I'm over here "Are you on your way? We're pulling up. They're pulling up. Okay, ready? You stand right here. I'm going in there." So it's very much very calculated, the whole situation. So, so I get in there and I'm talking to the lady at the reception desk and I'm like, "I'm here to discharge my mom." And they were like, "Okay." And so they asked me a few questions, but to be perfectly honest, they didn't even give me any pushback. They were just like, "So she's not coming back?" I'm like, "No, she's not coming back. get all of her meds together that she's been taking. I need all her discharge papers. I need a printout of everything that you guys have done for her the whole time that she's been here. Because I was coached on all of this, right? So they did everything. There was no fuss, there was no muss, but I'm still like freaking out. Now the next piece of this is us getting mom into the car and then getting us to the airport and then having somebody help us get her out of the car, which was supposed to be my brother and the caregiver. So, which it was. So, we get my mom in the car. We're like, oh my God, we got mom in the car. So mom is still not her normal self, right? Or even close to her baseline. I was afraid that she was overstimulated because, she's been sitting in a nursing facility for months. And then now all of a sudden she's in the back of a car and we're, taking her to get on a plane. Like, so she's kind of like, what the hell is going on? So we get to the airport. My brother's there. His flight got in from San Diego to the Bay Area airport. He got there and he waited on us at that airport. So the private duty caregiver, he had rode in the car with us, if I'm not mistaken. I can't fully remember that part. I just know we all were at the airport and we got mom into the airport wheelchair. Well, the airport wheelchair doesn't usually have arms. And mom doesn't really have any support. Mom's kind of like that, okay? So we are like, okay, how are we gonna do this? So it's almost time for us to board the flight. They're actually boarding the flight. And that was the other thing. We were kind of nervous that we weren't gonna make our flights. I think that was part of this too. So we get mom to the gate. The gate agent is like, so she can't get up. She can't transfer herself into the plane seat or anything. We're like, no. Plus we're on, I don't even want to call the airline out, but it's very small. It starts with an S and it's not Southwest. So anyway, we were 30 minutes late taking off, trying to get my mom from the airport wheelchair into the plane and onto the seat. And you'll see the picture. And so we finally get her on the plane. We're like, oh my God, yes. Now the next piece of this, so we've got the caregiver, my brother, myself, and my mom on the plane. We're like, okay, woo, we got mom on the plane. Now, what I forgot to tell you guys though, let me back up a little bit, was that I had turned my kids' game room. I was living in a small 3-bedroom house at the time. And I had turned my kids' game room into a hospital, basically a hospital room. I got everything that she needed. Hospital bed. I kind of I found all kind of stuff on, like, if it was Facebook or Craigslist, like I pieced everything together that she was going to need. And it just looked like a real hospital room. And so that was where we were taking her to, because we weren't able to find a place for her before because we just had such a short window. So we end up, like I said, getting on the plane. Flight was fine. Mom was good. I was nervous because of the brain injury. I didn't know if that was going to pose an issue or give her like a headache or that she would be uncomfortable, but the flight actually was fine. So we just felt so victorious because we got Mimi home. So that was like the whole thing. We got Mimi over the mountain because, of course, we're flying through the mountains from California to Texas. So that was the whole, pun, moving mountains for Mimi. We got Mimi over the mountain. So it was just a very joyous time. So when we get back to Dallas, my dad was the second part of the heist, getting mom home. And so, like I said, we had the caregiver. He was an awesome young man. He helped. We basically got mom in the car. And I had a little tiny car then too, so it was kind of hard, but we got mom in the car. And my dad, that's what it was. My dad was the driver. So he came and picked us up from the airport, got mom in the car. And then we went to my house. The caregiver got mom transferred into the new hospital bed, gave her a bed bath, got her all changed, got her put in her pajamas, very comfortable. Of course, the next day I was out. I was done. I slept so hard. Now, in the interim of all this, I actually had hired a caregiver to come and be with, my mom during the day and stuff, while I worked as well, because I couldn't stay at home. I didn't work from home at that point in time. So I had to have some help. And so I did have somebody that was going to be starting, not the next day was actually Memorial Day, but the day we're going to be starting the day after. So I slept literally almost the whole day. We just kind of took turns and shifts between me, my brother, and the kids just helping out with making sure my mom was comfortable. But we were all just like bone tired. So, but it was such an awesome thing. So the next day, the new caregiver comes, and my dad had taken the guy back to the airport that helped us with mom's transport and everything. And so that part of the story is done. The next part of the story is that the first day I'm back at work and we've gotten mom settled, which literally was 2 days later. So if you think Memorial Day is on a Monday, I went back to work on a Tuesday. I'm driving home from work and my aunt calls me and tells me that my grandmother died. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my God. It's like, da. So yeah, I just get my mom home. I'm barely have my footing with this situation. And now my grandmother, who was one of the people that raised me, who I love dearly and am very much like in a lot of ways. Like I love this lady to death. So I'm like, not me having to grieve the loss of my grandmother, which is my mother's mother, by the way. And my mom can't go to the funeral. So there's just all these different things that are happening. And then I still have to deal with how I'm going to tell my kids. And we've already just gone through all of this. And we feel like we finally, had crossed the hugest hurdle by getting mom home. And then this happens. This is why it is so important for you to have your ducks in a row, because for everything that we went through, looking back on it, it was just, it was a lot. It was a lot. And so I understand most, when people share their stories with me about stuff like that, I'm very compassionate about it because I completely understand how all of that goes. But yeah, I wanted to tell you guys that story, but that's kind of the ending, or towards the end of the book. There's a lot more details that are shared in the book, so I'm hoping you guys will pick up a copy of Moving Mountains for Mimi when it is released. Oh, there's so much more, and I haven't even just touched the tip of the iceberg of the stories and some of the salacious details about my life and this whole process that took place while I was being a caregiver or getting ready to be a caregiver. So it's been a wild ride, y'all. For now, thank you guys for joining me. I thoroughly appreciate it. And I'll see you guys for episode 4. Bye for now.